partnership between the International Center for Work and Family at IESE and the Home Renaissance Foundation is very relevant for us because it gives us an opportunity to think once again how the home, how the relationships that you develop there, how the work that you do there, because you also do work, affects, the work environment, affects your competencies, affects your attitudes, affects your virtues, affects your emotional capability, so it gives us one opportunity to do that and to get into conversations that allow us to further develop our thinking, and for that it informs our research.
It seems to me we're going through a period now of almost cataclysmic change on a lot of fronts. There's the pace of technology change, which been going on for a couple of centuries, of course, but it's accelerated very rapidly indeed. And then there's the social change, aging populations in most of our countries, with lots more people living alone, and the structure of marriage being challenged everywhere. Then we added to that, as if that wasn't enough, we had what the Americans would call the left field impact of COVID and all that brought about, which I don't think we've fully appreciated yet, all the ripple effects. And then Putin's war in Ukraine and the resulting, crisis in the cost of food, which hit lots of people, especially poorer people, very, very badly indeed. So it is a period of maximum change, and it's important that we meet and try to thread a way through it and remind people that what's important is the home and having a place above all where children feel secure and welcome. Lots of other aspects to it, of course.
Society is actually even searching for new paradigms because the social bonding is weakening, and we need to strengthen, right? Links, relationships, and the home is actually a very interesting paradigm of what we understand when using the term of healthy relationships. Why is this the case? Because from a philosophical, epistemological, methodological point of view, social point of view, the home is the place, the paradigmatic place in which human beings can really flourish. And all the activities, the work we daily do at home is really enabling our capabilities of relating to others and also of taking care of ourselves.
What is home? My thoughts on that topic have recently been shaped by my advocacy for the unhoused population in Lawrence, Kansas. Lawrence is the location of the University of Kansas, and the unhoused population is what used to be called homeless people. And so I have formed quite a few relationships with them, and I've worked with groups of them and individuals over the past couple of years. And I have found that home for these people is not necessarily a place. It certainly isn't a structure. Many of them have lived in tents. Many of them have slept in the open air. And what home is for them is having relationships with other people, sometimes intimate relationships, sometimes a community of people who look after each other, and sometimes a relationship with a pet, with a dog, for example.
From my perspective, these two contextual factors help to signal to employees that you don't have to hide your other self, from work. You go to work as a complete human being, and a complete human being has work and family as essential components of his or her life. So HR systems, leadership styles would help to signal that message. It's a recognition of that bit of your life, which makes your life holistic. And when that happens, it enables supervisors to provide the sort of behaviors that will help employees to experience need satisfaction, their sense of autonomy, their sense of competence, and their sense of belonging. And when people experience this, it promotes what I describe as work-family balance and integration of your work and family demands. And when you are able to do that, it enables you to thrive both at home and at work. And this thriving is at the core of what we call human sustainability.
At work we need or we have certain resources. It can be job security, supervisor support, it can be our time, flexibility or peer support, so there can be different resources. So what I'm saying is, in the remote context, you gain some resources, additional resources like your flexibility, your time, your autonomy, but at the same time you are deprived of some resources like connections at work, being more related to your team. So you feel the loss of certain social connections. So I propose in this research that there has to be a joint impact, joint effort from the individual, the manager, and some organizational aspects that help to foster these positive resources and help to rebuild the lost resources like connections. So I would suggest some different approaches, how they can work together to increase the resources of remotely working employees.
By the end of the day, we came to understanding that we should adopt a critical perspective to work and life, and establishing a meaningful relationship within the work domain will take efforts, a meaningful conversation and real engagement with other parties to form those enriching relationships. It requires effort, investment, care for other people, and understanding that those relationships are likely to spill over to other domains. So what you have maybe in one domain of your life can spill over to other domain of life. So keeping those boundaries intact with each other is one of the key takeaways for me.
Plato and Aristotle have very rich views on the human condition and on human psychology. And so what I think we see today is self-help literature from a variety of perspectives. Some of those perspectives are very rich traditions, such as Buddhism and Stoicism, but I believe they've been watered down for the general public. And I think that what we need to do is just to do the deep dive into Plato and Aristotle, find out what they thought, find out its relevance for us today, and stick with that. And so for me, what is really important about these thinkers is that they stress self-care, they stress knowledge and reflection, but they also stress the need for community and deeply social relationships. So I think that they have a lot to say to us. And when I have presented their views to the general public, people just soak it up. So I think there is a real hunger for that depth of material that we find in Plato and Aristotle.
We have to think of new models. We need to rethink the role of the space. The space, the office, the workplaces need, right, to have to be renewed, right? But it's a paradigm shift. We cannot think or use the same tools, the same places in the same way. Just giving maybe different names, smart names, that's not enough. We have to dwell. We need to inhabit those spaces in a different way, which this way needs new relationships, a new emphasis on real relationships of trust, of mutual help, of a common goal in pursuing a common good that in companies are more in general, right? The purpose of the company, of the business, in society can be, and it is in fact a lot of things, right? From educational goals, communication goals, political aims, and so on.
The conversation always tends to be about what the impact is on the home and on the office rather. Whereas of course there is a big impact on the home, suddenly having somebody who requires space and a desk and, you know, who's not free to answer the telephone all the time even though he's there. And I think we've all had some experience of the stresses and strains that can bring. If you have a handsome house, as I do, then it's less of a problem, but of course most people don't, and they have to find space for it. And the other thing, I think which we don't talk about enough is that there's a lot of conversation in businesses about are companies getting value for money out of employees that are at home, because it's hard to monitor them, and we've yet to come up with a set of rules to cover that. But it's also that people can be exploited.
I really like interdisciplinary approaches, and today I think we saw how we can see the big picture through so many different interdisciplinary commands, and this way I think we learned a lot from each other, so it was a very fruitful conversation.
And I think this workshop is extremely timely at a time when we are struggling to make sense of relationships, and also making sense of what it means to be human. What does it mean to be human? Relationship, even animals establish relationships, let alone us, who are said to be social beings.
Understanding a phenomenon, whether it's at the individual level, team level, or organizational level, it relates to all fields, because science is by itself is a whole big picture, and without touching within other fields of science, then I think understanding a phenomenon could be quite limited. Therefore, this multidisciplinarity not only enriches the concept, but also enables us to develop a broader framework of theories, of perspectives, of practical implications, of touching on each of these lives.
One idea is the intricate nature of relationships. So there is not one thing that is magical recipe. So there are many things, because it's about virtues, it's about attitudes, it's about behaviors, but it's also about the environment. So there are so many things that actually affect relationships that we cannot reduce it to something that is very maybe trivial, right? And so we have to keep on doing research, but also experimenting. And I think that those two resources, thinking, theorizing, and experimenting and understanding, help each other to really advance the way we can influence society in general, but also organizations, families, and policymakers.